Hello, hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Stoddscast. I am your host, Christine Cernelia. I have got my sparkly element here that I'll be drinking throughout the episode because we got to stay fueled with those electrolytes when we are chronically ill. And if you are not chronically ill, you should probably just be sipping on some water or some sort of hydrating beverage throughout this conversation. I'm showing up today on a snowy, icy, windy, cold day in Charlotte. This is the day that the storms have hit the East Coast, and my kids are doing quiet time and nap time, and my husband is not feeling well. So I've got the monitor with me. There may be interruptions, but that's the name of the game here. We show up even when it's imperfect. I am not striving for perfection here. I'm striving for being very fucking real and just telling you exactly what is going on without curating the shit out of it like a lot of people do. So, on that note, we're going to be talking about a maybe fun topic today, which is the ways that my mindset has shifted since developing a chronic illness. And I know, it's another chronic illness type of podcast episode, and I will have more that are not about that, but I am loving the way that it has opened my mind since going through this. There's a lot of negative to going through chronic illness, but you got to look for those glimmers of positivity in everything. And some of the ways that my mindset has shifted and just the ways that my worldview has opened up because of going through this, I'm going to take as a positive. So let's get into it. The first one, this was a tough one for me. Number one thing that has been a mindset shift for me since developing chronic illness is that taking good care of yourself doesn't exempt you from health issues. I firmly believed that because I ate well, I always exercised, and I've like done all the right things, that I would just like live a healthy life and everything would be fine. Living proof that is not the case. But um, it's still very worth it to take care of yourself because I think about if I went into this situation without having taken care of myself, and oh my God, the level of difficulty that it would like be to try to change my lifestyle without already having the discipline and tools and knowledge on how to change my lifestyle that I have because I've lived really healthy for my entire life and I've had to like implement healthy habits and tweak things over time. All of that definitely helped me go through this journey. It made it really fucking hard to go through this journey because I'm used to feeling really good, but it also helped me because the uphill battle of like habit change would be so much more difficult if it wasn't something that I had already built the muscle around doing. So that's number one. Number two, and this is kind of a big one. I now can understand the nuance in everything a little bit better. And I've always believed firmly in nuance. And that's a really hard thing to convey on social media, especially because if you can see it today, everything is like very black and white, like you're right or you're wrong. You're very science-based, which means the things that are important are like the macros that you're eating, the workouts that you're doing, very like big picture things. And I do agree, those are very important. There's a reason why they're science backed, and there's a reason why lots and lots of people recommend them. But if you're in that camp, then you usually think things like functional medicine, and like even more woo-woo energy work type things are like bullshit grifter things. And I am now in a place where I'm like, I don't know. I've always made room for both, but I make room for both even more now. I still think it is extremely important that you like eat enough protein, that you get your movement in, but I am living proof that just doing those things isn't enough to to exempt you from going through chronic illness. And I'm not saying that if you nail all of the different health spectrumy things that people talk about perfectly, that you will be exempt from chronic illness, because if you do that, then you're probably some form of like orthorexic and highly stressed by all the things that you're doing. So I'm not saying like you have to do all of those things and do them perfectly, but I am saying a lot of the things that people refer to as like grifts, like you're a grifter if you're pushing this and like this is bullshit, there's no science to back it up. I can see a place for a lot of those things now. What I can't see a place for is people promoting them heavily on Instagram as like cure-alls and charging money for people to like do them and like just making money off of that. Then I do think you're leaning into that grifter category a little bit more. But I am a believer that there is a time and a place for pretty much everything at this point. We just don't need to promote everything as the cure all and a solution. It's something that everyone needs to do. My examples of this are both butthole related, so sorry. Um, like you'll see people doing things like sunning their butthole on Instagram and being like, you should do this, it'll totally change your health. Okay. Um, Maybe it will. I'm not about to like promote that as a cure-all. I also have not given it a shot, so hey. And there's things like you need to be doing coffee enemas like 5 times a week, whatever. You don't need to be doing those things. Um, but I would believe that those things may help someone sometime. I just don't think that you should promote them as the thing to do. Um, the other examples I kind of have of this are people will dog on red light therapy and they'll dog on like going in the sauna and cold plunging and like you don't need all that stuff. You don't you don't need all that stuff to have a healthy lifestyle, but some people benefit so strongly from those things. And it's not just like I used to be very much if you aren't exercising and aren't hitting your protein, like why bother doing all this other stuff? And I do still believe that for like 99% of the population, but there is a very small percentage of the population who need those small needle movers to be able to get the energy to exercise enough and eat well. Like red light therapy is actually hugely beneficial for me with POTS. And there is research to back that up. It is, expensive and it is a therapy that like not everyone needs to be doing it, but I will say I can tell a difference on days that I use red light therapy or not. My energy is different. So again, it gives me that nuance. It gives me that there's a time and a place for everything. The other big place that I feel this nuance, and this is the big one, so going for a big sip here. Vaccines. A taboo word, and a conversation that requires a lot of nuance that just cannot be conveyed via social media. I'm very much pro vaccination. My kids get all of their shots on time. Um, I went and got the COVID vaccine as soon as it became available, and I got the first booster as soon as it became available. I, if you listen to my health journey episode, I do believe that the COVID vaccine or the COVID booster played a part in me developing POTS. Um, Now, what I will say is I think that I had to have a body and a mind and whatever that was in a place that was more fragile isn't the right word, but susceptible to something happening. So the nuance here is that I believe that I had an issue and a reaction from the COVID vaccine. I also believe and can see the like hundreds of people that I interact with on a regular basis who got the shot and like continue to get boosters who have had no issues whatsoever. So I would never say like, oh, the COVID vaccine is complete bullshit. No one should get it, blah, blah, blah. I'm not going to like go on a pedestal and say, don't do that. I'm also not going to go on a pedestal and be like, everyone do it. And I'm not going to like, ignore the fact that it worked not well in my specific case. And it made me be cautious about my own children because if I had a reaction, I'm not going to give them that same exact vaccine because while I don't think that they have the same susceptibility that I do necessarily, it's just not a risk that I'm willing to take at this point. So we will get everything that is required, and I am going to have no issues with that. I've always gotten every vaccine that's required, but I can now understand a little bit more nuance in this conversation, and it doesn't have to be like I'm not vaccinating my children at all, and like vaccine mandates are fucking bullshit, and like super like dogmatic about it on either side. So I'm pretty much like although like I'm still going to be a little dogmatic about some of the vaccines that do like I don't want to get like measles. I don't want my kids getting measles and like weird shit like that. I do still have a little bit like let's just let's just get those. Let's remember that vaccines helped um eradicate certain diseases and we don't really want them coming back and there's a reason for that. But I have more nuance within that conversation now. This is not an extremely informed vaccine position. Like I'm not. It's like I came with like buckets of research. I'm just telling you what my personal experience is with it and how that played into my level of like I have nuance for everything and I hold that nuance a lot more comfortably than I may have before. Something else that I have leaned into more since having chronic illness, so this is the third way that my mindset has changed. I've always considered myself an empathetic person, but I think that my empathy levels are definitely higher now that I have gone through chronic illness because you will see people, or there's just people can be going through so much that you don't see actually on a regular basis. And that was something that I didn't necessarily have as much of a stance on before. A good example of this is work. Like you'll see at work sometimes people not picking up their end of Slack, and then you're doing all of the group work on the project and feeling like, why can't this person just do what they're supposed to do? Like, why aren't they showing up? And blah blah blah, and like judging them. And now that I have lived in a body that just did not allow me the energy to contribute in the way that I wanted to be able to contribute, I'm like, man, you have no idea what people are going through. And that's just with chronic illness. People could be going through any number of things: death in the family, divorce, moving, financial stress. I don't know, a bajillion things that could impact the way that you show up. It's frankly fucking stupid that we only care about someone's level of productivity. It's speaks to some of my conspiracy theories slash just like thoughts around capitalism and like why is this what we have to do? Why is this the best that we have to offer? Um, why are we measuring people's productivity, worth off of their productivity? Like you can definitely contribute to the world without contributing in that very specific way. And you don't have to contribute in that very specific way to have a meaningful life. And there are a lot of people who have chronic illnesses who cannot contribute to the capital in the way that people would want and expect them to. And they're not excited. They're not kicking back like, hell yeah, I can't wait to not be working. These people are like debilitated and not being seen. Um, that's fucking hard. So, all this to say, I have a lot of empathy. I'm the first person to now say you have no idea what someone is going through. Offer them kindness, make the generous assumption. And, if it becomes a problem where someone's just like dogging it to dog it and it's ruining your life, definitely deal with that, say something, but like lead with empathy. Start with empathy. Assume that people aren't showing up in a way that does not meet your expectations because they are an asshole. Maybe they are just going through the shitter, and I get that. Kind of piggybacking off of that, I have learned since going through chronic illness that there is an entire community of people out there with chronic illness who you probably don't know exist unless, well, you're listening to this podcast, you probably do know now. But until you become a part of it or you have someone close in your life who's going through it, you don't even know that there is just a shit ton of people out there who are going through it with their health and they are trying to like do the right things and trying to get the help. But there is not good help for people with chronic illness. A lot of the times it's symptom management. It is not um, curative. Like there's a lot of times they don't even give you hope that there is a cure. And I'm someone who believes that like full remission slash cure slash I'm not dealing with this for the rest of my life is possible. There are some people out there who don't have that belief, and it depends on what your diseases or illnesses or whatever are. I hold that belief, but if you go through, especially Western medicine, which is all that most insurance covers, so that's all that a lot of people have access to, you may be like just in the machine, not getting what you need to get out of it. Um, which brings me to if you like when someone is going through chronic illness and they can't work, this is so messed up. Like you likely can't contribute. You can't like make money in the way that you want to usually make money. You can't make as much money as someone who is healthy, but your medical costs are so much higher than a healthy person's too. So you are just getting like fucking dogged on both ends of the spectrum here, and it sucks. It makes it really hard to like make any progress. It can make you feel extremely stuck. I felt extremely stuck for quite a while because I couldn't really take an alternative route to get to like try to figure out POTS and like how to get better until I finally hit a breaking point where I was like, I'm doing all the things that I've maxed out the free research I can find, the insurance supported support that I like insurance funded support that I can go after. I need to explore alternative modalities, which means I'm going to be paying out the motherfucking ass to try and get this figured out. Extremely challenging position to be in. And like, I'm a fortunate person going through that. I can't fathom if I did not have the means that I have trying to go through this. You would be so unbelievably stuck. Unless like some of the free things that you find on the internet like work for you and you're able to apply them in the right way. I had a really hard time with that because I'm just such a like wound tight person that some of the stuff that I was trying wasn't working until I invested in solutions that helped me like calm the fuck down, and then like these therapies started working. Anyway, all that to say, there's a whole world of chronic illness people out there. The cost is insane. Um, the bullshit that they're going through is insane, and we just have no idea about it. Also, if you want an estimate on what I have spent on trying to get my health figured out since things took their very first dip of like I'm feeling weird in 2022, yeah, 2022. Um, my rough estimate, easily $100,000. And if you heard what I make and support a family of four on, you would be like, how did that work? How did you make that happen? I don't know. I do not know the logistics. Luckily, we bought our house when we did. Um, the stars have aligned to allow us to be able to spend that much on it. I don't want to have spent that much on it. Then think of all the other bullshit I could have with $100,000 that I didn't spend. A lot of it not coming to fruition in any particular way either. Um, so there is a whole world of people out there going through this, and a lot of people who are way sicker than me and who have probably spent way more than me. So when you're interacting with someone, I'm not saying that this needs to be top of mind for you all the time, but it's good to just know, have a little context that stuff like this exists. I think we're becoming more aware of the different layers of things and like different layers of privilege and different layers of difficulty that people are going through. But here's my PSA for you on how crazy that shit can be. Okay, a couple more ways that chronic illness has changed my viewpoints in life. One of them is around faith. So I could do an entire podcast on this, and maybe I will one day, but I grew up super Catholic, had a lot of reckoning with that as I went to college and after college and whatnot. There was just a lot of like, is this really what I believe? I felt that religion was used as like a form of judgment and a form of punishment all the time. And it was really hard for me. So I just walked away from everything completely for quite some time. And when I first started, or after I had like the, you know, really intense experience delivering Aria and then having to go back to the hospital, when I was in therapy, I had a therapist recommend that I watch The Chosen. And this therapist, she was batshit crazy. I loved her so much. And she was like what I needed at the time. But man, that lady, she, if we knew each other socially, there is no way we would get along because we have just completely different viewpoints on a lot of different things in life. But she was like, you should try watching The Chosen. And I was like, you know what? At this point, I'm at such a loss in my life. I will try watching The Chosen. And it did bring me back to like, okay, I can get down with like what Jesus is doing here. This is pretty cool. This is pretty good. And like this reinforces my beliefs of a very loving, forgiving, kind, God, and he, like as Jesus is walking around healing people, I'm like, oh, this is good, this is beautiful. It really moved me, and I started praying again. And so that was kind of like a big, step for me. I have a really hard time because, like, not just because of like the Catholicism trauma that I mentioned, but because I think the way that Christianity and the church and people who are very religious, like people who put Bible verses in their Instagram profile. There tends to be a certain narrative and stereotype and all that fun stuff there that I just very strongly do not identify with. So I was like, okay, I'm starting to kind of get into this, but I don't want to be like that. Like that's, and I was just like, okay, I'm gonna pray. I'm gonna like build my own relationship with like God and what I'm thinking. Um, and then I just kind of fell off and I continued to pray, but I haven't watched The Chosen in a long time, etc. Well, then, when things start getting really heavy for me last year, one of my friends is very religious and has a very strong belief in Jesus and God and all that. And she would send me different Bible verses and like she would tell me she was praying for me all the time. And like several people living in the South, several people will come up and tell you that they're praying for you all the time. And it like meant something to me, and it really again would like move me to tears a lot of times when people would say I'm praying for you. So it led to a little bit more of like me questioning my faith and trying to figure out my faith to the point where I am now. I can't believe I'm going to admit this out loud on a podcast because it's something that again I don't want to be like typecast because I'm going to say this. I joined a Bible study through that friend who um is very like has a very strong faith. She's leading one. It's with just other moms in my neighborhood. And I've never studied the Bible. Like I just was forming my opinions based off of going to the Catholic Church and not wanting to be a participant in some of the crazy narratives that are going on today. So it was just like, okay, rejection because of these things. And now I'm like, okay, I'm open. I have to believe that there's something better after this. Um, Otherwise, what is this all for? And like, why am I suffering, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm using this Bible study to learn more about the Bible and learn more about God and learn more about myself and like form my beliefs and my views. I do align with some of the things in Christianity, but I also align with some things that are like not Christian at all. Um, like I believe in some very woo-woo stuff too. I'm figuring things out for myself. Again, not a super educated view. It's not like I go out and like am heavily researching these topics and then coming back with an opinion that's formed off of a shit ton of research. But like I'm forming opinions based off of my lived experience. And I have some beliefs that it's like, yeah, love thy neighbor, definitely big belief of mine. Thou shalt not kill, definitely huge belief of mine. Um, I believe that there's like something better after this. Yes. I believe that like Jesus really did come and whatnot. But I also have more expansive views beyond that too, where I have come to believe that I knew I would have I would go through like a large trial coming to Earth. That my soul knew before, like my soul has done more than just be on Earth. I knew that when I came to Earth, I would go through a large trial because when you go through a really large trial, like healing a chronic illness, you heal not only yourself, but you heal 7 generations backward and 7 generations forward. That certainly is not in the Bible. That is something that has come from some of the like spiritual and energy work teachings that I have been reading and like working with. So I believe that I knew that I would go through a trial like that so that I could heal my mother, my grandmother, my children. And of course, I have a very strong belief that I knew that and I accepted that because and that helps me really get through those hard moments where I'm like, why does my body feel like it's shutting down on me right now? And I'm like, it's so that I don't have to watch my kids go through this one day. And I know this is way too far out there for anyone who came before me to believe. They're strict Catholics through and through. And I know that I could not tolerate watching my children be the one to have to do it. So it just made sense. It's me. I have to do that. Um, so my faith doesn't necessarily fit in a box. It definitely doesn't fit in a box. People are probably hearing this being like, well, this contradicts that, and this is why this. And like, I frankly don't give a fuck. If you want to believe those things, if you want to have your own belief system, do your thing. I'm going to have my own belief system, and that's what works for me. And I reserve the right to change that at any point in time. But developing some sort of faith and like belief in something greater and belief that like someone ultimately has my back has been a huge difference maker for me. So getting more into my faith and just trying to figure out my faith and what I believe instead of ignoring that there is anything to believe has been a big game changer for me since coming down with chronic illness. And last but not least, the last thing I want to share that is something that changed my mind since developing chronic illness is just simplifying. So I've said this a few times throughout this podcast. I'm like a do many things kind of woman. Um, I look back and I always tell people this like in school, I was the person who had straight A's, had did a sport every season, played an instrument, sang in chorus, had an after school job. Like I was just always busy. I was always doing something, just forever doing, never just being. Um, And that pattern has continued. And I love it in so many ways. I'm like a very action oriented person. I'm a very, I like to be busy. I like to do things. This last year, I could not be that level of busy. I had to slow the fuck down and I had to cut things out of my life that I don't need to be doing. Like, there's just no need to be doing all of the things all of the time. Um, so now I'm really only trying to do things that feel like they're in alignment with me at that time. Um, I felt very aligned and called to starting a podcast. So I started a podcast. Um, when people want to make like plans or like do something and I don't feel super aligned to it, I'm starting to say no to those things. And like, I don't need to say yes to every single opportunity. I'm got getting pickier about who I work with from a business perspective. I'm getting picky about what I do so I can simplify and focus on the things that actually matter. The things that matter to me are my family, my health, helping other people, definitely social life and fun. I'm an Enneagram 7. Like I need to be having fun. If it's not fun, I'm not going to do it. Um, but going through this and like only having a certain amount of energy every single day has led me to figuring out, like just really tuning in with myself. Is this aligned? Is this what I want to be doing? Yes, then it's a yes. No, it's a no. So if you take one thing from this podcast, it could be that. It could be like simplify your life. Um, the biggest thing I would hope that you take from today is just that people are fighting silent battles that you know nothing about every single day. And I know that people say that all the time, and it may resonate for you and it may not, but I hope it resonated for you today. Um, anyway, those are some of the top of mind ways that my mindset has changed since coming down with chronic illness. I hope at least a little bit of something resonated for you today. Let me know in the comments. Share this with someone who needed to hear it. Thank you so much for listening and tune in next time for another episode of the Stoddscast.